Hello, I'm Gavin Hoey, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can take product photographs right there in your very own home. Now, photography is all about lighting, and product photography is no different. So for the lighting in this video, we're going to use these two lamps here. Now, this is the tabletop kit from Mick and Sue. You can find out more details about them from their website at www.smick.co.uk. Now, with the lighting on this, I've gone with the 105 watt continuous lighting bulb. It's a great big bulb. It kicks out about 500 watts of normal light, just over. So with two of those, we've got just over 1,000 watts of light. Because they're a continuous light as well, they give a lot of brightness, but not a lot of heat. So they're much more comfortable to work with. They come with these nice little tabletop stands, which are really kind of chunky and durable, but don't take up too much space, so we've still got plenty of room on our table to take our pictures. Now, speaking of pictures, I could just plonk my product right down here on the table. But to get the very best look, I'm actually going to set up a little miniature studio with a little miniature curved background as well. Let's look at the equipment we're going to use for that. So to set up our little mini studio, I've really got nothing more than a couple of bits of cardboard that I've pinched out a bit of packaging. I've got a couple of clamps as well. Now, these might be the only things you haven't got hanging around. These I got from a DIY store. They cost about £1 for a whole set of them. They're perfect. I've also got some little tiny clips just for holding things together. These are little mini ones you can get from a stationery shop. And whilst you're there, pick up some paper as well. I've got some white paper and some black paper. And I'll show you how you can photograph against both the white and the black, because it's a slightly different technique with both. So with my background set up and my product in place, I'm ready to start taking the pictures. But hold on a second. You need to set your camera up for the best possible quality of photograph. So let's just run through the settings you're going to be using. Now, I'm using a digital SLR to take these pictures, so I'm going to set my camera to work in Aperture priority mode. That's the A or AV setting on your camera. I'm going to set an aperture of f8. Now, that's a really good aperture to use because it gives a nice depth of field. In other words, you get a good range of focus from the front to the back of the product. I'm also going to set my ISO to a nice low number. 100 ISO should give me the best quality. But as a result, I need to watch the shutter speed. Now, even with 1,000 watts of light hitting our product, it's still possible to get a very low shutter speed. So if you're hand holding, make sure your shutter speed doesn't drop so low that you end up with camera shake. Anything below a 50th of a second and you could be in trouble. Better still is to pop your camera on a tripod. That way you don't have any worries about camera shake at all. Now, we also have to think about the background as well. Because we're using the pure white background, it tends to make your camera get a little confused. It'll try and make this pure white a sort of grey colour, and the end result is normally an image that's a little bit underexposed. So to get this right in camera, I'm going to dial in a stop to a stop and a half of exposure compensation. Okay, let's turn the lights on and start taking some pictures. Now, as you can see, these lights are really pumping out the power. It really is very, very bright on our teapot there. In fact, on the video, you can barely see it at all. 1,000 watts of light is very, very powerful. And it's giving us a good shutter speed as well, 80th of a second. But that's with the exposure compensation set to 0. Let's have a look and see what happens when I take a picture with that setting. Okay, so as you can see, it's really dark, it's underexposed, the white background has gone, well, a bit of a muddy grey colour. Let's change the exposure compensation, we'll add in a stop and a third extra exposure, and we'll see how that looks. Now, as you can see, this time, it's a much cleaner, whiter background, and it looks so much better. Of course, it's not absolutely perfect. We are getting a little bit of shadows coming either side of the teapot. And that's caused because we're using just the bare bulbs on our little tabletop lighting setup here. Now, we could get around that by using one of the Mick & Sue lighting cubes, and we'll look at that in another video. Or you could get around it by changing the background colour to black. And that's what we're going to do next. Okay, so we've gone for the black background, and that has a couple of advantages. The first one is those shadows. Those shadows are no longer a problem, because you had dark shadows, dark background. Well, you can figure that out for yourself. That works really well. Secondly, we don't have that white background confusing the camera's meter. So we can use our standard exposure compensation. You could even set your camera to program mode or use a compact camera and still get a pretty good result. One little word of warning though, if you are photographing a dark object against a dark background, you may run into exactly the same problems but reversed than you had with the white background, in as much as you get a picture that's just too light. But black backgrounds are generally much easier to work with. Okay, let's take a picture and see the result. Okay, so there we are, product photography in your own home, and it's really simple to do. For more information and to have a closer look at the products we've featured here, have a look at the Smick website at www.smick.co.uk. I'm Gavin Hoey. Thanks for watching.